We are live, despite my lateness, tardiness,
Yeah,
whatever it's called.
yeah, we're going even a minute late, so you're good. I am only
Uh,
dude, and he.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son. And this is Theory Hour,
Yay!
where we discuss theories and go through smarter people's analysis of a Song by Fire and a Game of Thrones than we are. Uh,
A simple time. That reminds me of back when Twitter was Twitter, and I was speaking on it regularly with different people. Um, Somebody had made a comment about tinfoil, or I forget what it was. You still hear me?
yeah, I'm with you. It did flicker there for a second.
Yeah, I had a call try to pop in.
Ah,
That there's something about tinfoil, and I'm like, yes, I'm the king of tinfoil town. Blah blah blah. I mean, unless it's proven, kind of isn't everything tinfoil? I mean, granted, there are the higher probability of the information, but I mean, you started out wearing tinfoil hat just like everybody else, and people on the other side will claim that your stuff is tinfoil. Someone say how so.
Supremacy at Tully says, did someone say House Tully? All right.
Ah, Chris, you got to remind me to find the flags. Well, I used to do this in a garage in the last place I lived, and I had the storage behind me and everything, and I had that whole corner of the garage. But on one side of the garage, we had a wall of flags. I think it was like 6 or 7 flags: Game, Night's Watch, House Tully. I can't remember them all. Lannister. I forget, but they're folded up somewhere. So I don't have a garage here. We have a building. Um, but I know I have a House Tully flag. I want to put that behind me one day to shout out to Brazil that yes, House Tully's in the house. But yeah, get back to tinfoil. So I was like, yeah, I'm the king of tinfoil. The tinfoil town is here.
Yeah, and as I will, says Chris, or sorry, Tris. uh, um, uh, we left off. So what we've been doing recently in terms of better analysis that we read through, discuss. We had done Toodle's version of Shadrick is Howland Reed, and then we did Blue Lemon's version of Shadrick is Howland Reed. Um, and um, and both of those also, of course, have Byron the Beautiful as the Hound and the elder brother as
Huh?
Morgarth the
Okay.
Merry, right? Morgarth the Merry. Okay, Blusus Legaeus Partus Persilis and Live.
I got one
Okay,
word on that
for
live.
two people in live, I'm guessing. I mean, I'm trying to use Spanish Latin kind of stuff to try and figure it out, but my Spanish isn't that great. My Portuguese is clearly worse.
In pair of four.
Oh my God, I forgot, guys. I literally made a tinfoil hat with words. It was easy with cardboard. Guys, sorry. No, it's fine. Quite all right. It's fine. It's fine. Just be aware that we're not going to follow it very well.
I'll go ahead and tell you, if this was smell-o-vision, me looking at that, you could probably smell bacon coming from my brain trying to figure out what the hell that said.
Oh, well, according to people in story, do a backflip, please. Yeah. Sorry, I don't think I can do that.
I know I can't.
Uh,
Now, when I was younger, you know how you could lay on your back and flip to your feet?
yeah,
I could do
sure. I
that.
know.
Yeah, hands down. I could do it without hands. I mean, I was great. I had a guy in uh, 7th grade show me. Then started martial arts and backdoor, then went to actual establishments. But he showed me, and it took me I don't know, probably about 10, 15 minutes to get it right. He also showed me how to run up a wall, do a backflip off of it, land on your feet. Dude was great.
Jackie Chan
His name,
style.
yeah, his name was, Scott Rogers. He was really into kung fu. Very agile. I was agile back at that time. I just didn't know I was that agile. But no, never mind. I'm tooting my own horn. Toot toot.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So and then we've moved on to the Myronese blot. This is by Adam Feldman, who is one of the SCOTUS blog Supreme Court scholars. So George has commented on this to basically say it's 100% correct. So this is as non-tinfoil analysis as you can get with um, other than quoting George verbatim. This is about as lack of tinfoil analysis as it gets, I guess. I meant to say that your shirts are really cool. Well, thank you.
Oh, okay. Christopher Budd bought this one. What'd you say about SCOTUS?
SCOTUS blog, the Supreme Court of the United States.
This guy's does what for that?
He's one of the nation's leading legal scholars.
Okay. No, is he on the Supreme Court or just he talks about it?
No. He's one of the leading discussers of it. He's got I think he's got a JD and so forth. But
Does he know the Supreme Court people?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Like he's friends with them?
I would
tell him he's right too.
He's in the not Heritage, the Orrin Hatch one, the conservative group that does the courts. I can't think of their names right now.
If he's like that or like that with people on the Supreme Court, I would tell him he's right also.
Anyway, that's probably how you get noticed by the people around George, right? Is that you're a prominent scholar, and you write up lots of analysis of George's work. Somebody is going to realize that who you are and ask George about it. So that's probably why this is basically the only analysis of his books that he's really commented on. Right, he says, and even as he commented on, he says, "I don't normally read this stuff."
Hey, where's my hand that had the bird on it? It's usually like right here.
How would I know?
I don't know. I just realized that when I moved the camera.
That's one of my friends says when I ask questions like that. Ask yourself.
Well, I moved the camera and I'm like, well, can you still see the bird? And then I'm looking, I'm like, I can't see the bird. And then I look back and I realize there is no bird. My daughter did say
they're not there.
The cat had a zoomies on my side of this room, so the cat probably knocked it over. Sorry, I don't mean to distract.
That's all right. All right, so we're picking up with Reborn in the Dothraki Sea. This is the Myronese blot, Untangling the Myronese Knot, Part 4, A Darker Daenerys. Reborn. Okay, Reborn in the Dothraki Sea. Removed from the city and left alone with her thoughts, her visions, and her dragon in the Dothraki Sea, Dany's psychological transformation completes. She spends the first few pages trying to walk back to Meereen, telling herself she has to, that it's her duty for her people. Her home was back in Meereen with her husband and her lover. That was where she belonged, surely. On Drogon's back, she felt whole. Up in the sky, the woes of this world could not touch her. How could she abandon that? It was time, though. A girl might spend her life at play, but she was a woman grown, a queen, a wife, a mother to thousands. Her children had need of her. It's important that, though the reader knows Meereen is now falling apart, Dany has no idea. As far as she knows, everything is still peaceful there. By now, the young Kai will be marching home. That was why she had done all that she had done, for peace. However, Drogon is keeping her away. He is again behaving symbolically, representing her dragon side, keeping her away from the peace until she is ready for war. She would sooner have returned to Meereen on dragon's wings, to be sure, but that was a desire Drogon did not seem to share. And our friend Guy, the Green Bard, has a YouTube channel in which he has done his analysis of Dany's Dragon Bond, and he thinks that a lot of what she's hearing is actually coming from Drogon, and that he's guiding her to embrace the war, her war side, as it were, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. When their bond is the closest is when she's angry.
Soon the visions, yeah. Soon the visions start. All of the visions have the same purpose: to criticize what you did in Marine and tell her to be a dragon. First is Quaithe. Remember who you are, Daenerys, the stars whispered in a woman's voice. The dragons know. Do you? Then Dany eats some bad berries and sees Viserys, surely a great role model for how to responsibly use a dragon, making the same point. She's forgotten who she is and what her words mean. Why did they give the dragon's eggs to you? They should have been mine. If I'd had a dragon, I would have taught the world the meaning of our words. And if you've read Fever Dream, the meaning of their words is that you shouldn't tolerate slavery, right? Anyway.
Right. Now, now are we on the side that says they gave the eggs to Dany because they knew Dany was going to be able to hatch them?
I'm on that side. I believe that Illyrio is a liar. That maybe he's as unreliable in his predictions of what's going to come as Melisandre is, but that he probably does have either fire visions or access to fire visions, right? Because he dresses as a red priest, he worships the red god. I would see fan. I think it's Khal Drogo, but spinning. I'm sorry, but
fan behind you.
The fan behind me. Okay.
Now, chronologically is okay. When Bran has his falling vision dream, whatever it is, he looks to Shy, to the south to Shy. He sees dragons stirring beneath the Shy. Is that before or after Dany gets those eggs?
Some people argue it says where dragons stirred, and that could be a reference to the location of a Shy rather than something actually happening there.
Okay.
I've heard that interpretation. I'm not saying that's right. George loves ambiguity, but I'm pointing out that that's one interpretation of a Shy where dragons stirred could mean where they originally stirred rather than where they are currently stirring, right?
Yeah, you answered my question because my thinking is that where dragons stirred, if that's the wording, stirred, past tense, meaning that's where the eggs came from. That the eggs were there waiting to be awakened.
Right, and Dany even implies that surely even in a Shy where dragons come from, surely there must still be dragons. And everybody's like, no, there's no more dragons. Right. So it's like everybody knows. It's as if everybody knows that dragons came from a Shy, right? The way Dany and Bran phrase it could be interpreted as everyone knows that's where they came from, where they originally stirred. That it could be taken.
Yeah,
Dany,
my
sister
on that is
the demon Rhaegar Targaryen. Dany, the sister of no. See, she's not actually though. See Triplet Targaryen's episode 4.
Well, my thing is, if the dragon eggs were in a Shy before Master Illyrio got them, someone in a Shy, which probably is Quaithe, had the vision of Dany waking those dragons and were able to get Illyrio into the pattern being moved on the board.
And Illyrio is a liar, and people use the fact that he claims that he never expected her to hatch them as proof that he never expected her to hatch them. And I'm like, no, he's a liar, and it doesn't make any sense unless he expected her to hatch them. Yeah, the story doesn't actually make sense unless he expected her to, so therefore he expected her to. And he's always lying, so therefore he's lying when he says that.
They give the Khalasar, the approaching calls, gold, and slaves, and all that stuff. Why on earth would they give 3 dragon eggs to the Khals White?
Right. When
When
it's
her
implied
brother is going, yeah, her brother is
that,
going to be
that one is like enough to raise an army, basically, right? And so why would he
right,
do that, right? Unless they're going to go up in value by doing that. And the only way they're going to go up in value by doing that is if she's going to hatch them.
right. Those one of those eggs is far more priceless than a Valerian greatsword. Valerian's still greatsword. I mean, without a doubt. There's 200 in
Right.
Westeros.
Right,
So
right, right,
there's
right.
3 dragon eggs right there. Granted, they're petrified supposedly, and stone and won't hatch or and whatever. But there is the chain of events that happened that put those eggs in Danny's hands,
Right.
knowing that the dragons would come forward. I think it was Quaithe that started it. With one of the persons that started it, Anna Shy. That's where she's from, or that's where she was before she went to Carp.
Well, she clearly is a shadow binder from a shy. We're told that. So,
Right. Hey,
good evening,
Christy.
everyone. This is Kirsty. Yeah, yeah.
Hello,
I just think
Jacqueline.
it's amazing how many people in the fandom will tell you, no, we learned from Illyria that he didn't expect that. Which is more likely that Illyria is lying and the story makes no sense, or I mean, sorry, that Illyria is lying and the story makes perfect sense, or that Illyria is telling the truth and the story makes no sense. Like,
Well, stop and think. Who's Illyrio's best friend? The Master of
Orcus,
Whispers. I mean, he
Orcus
definitely
Ferris.
learned.
You say supremacy, Tully? Ooh, I see.
They have water dragons.
uh, uh,
I didn't
let's
mean to get off
continue
topic.
here. Now, keep in mind that as we said, the Green Bard says that the grass and the conversations, other than possibly the one with Quaithe, are coming from Drogon. So let's keep that in mind as we're reading this part. Now, the following
Yeah,
exchange
he
is
is
crucial.
quite smart too. So I mean,
Now, the following exchange is crucial. I am the blood of the dragon, she told the grass aloud. Once, the grass whispered back, until you chained your dragons in the dark. Drogon killed a little girl. Her name. Then he could not recall the child's name. That made her so sad that she would have cried if all her tears had not been burned away. I will never have a little girl. I was the mother of dragons. Aye, the grass said, but you turned against your children. This is that is interesting. That like the statement, I will never have a little girl. I was the mother of dragons. It's as if she's giving up on the. Of course, there's similarities to Ned and him being upset that he forgot the faces that he swore he would always remember. Right? There's definitely similarities to that. But and she's mentioned things like I won't forget kind of thing about Hosea, Aroa, and so forth.
yeah. Well, Ned
Hosea
forgetting
being
the
this
faces
one.
also, I think, leads to some brain games that were played on him. By
Well, I like that one of the Green Hands interpretation, which is that it's easier to remember people if you saw them after that versus and thought of them as alive versus thinking them as gone, right? And so that could be a clue as to which ones who survived that encounter.
yeah, in that scenario, I don't think he remembers Willem Dustin, so that doesn't go with me in my theory. So I don't subscribe to that.
Okay, fair enough. This is a turning point for Dany. The book started with Dany finding out her dragon had killed the little girl Hosea. The girl's name haunted her throughout the book, so it's immensely significant that her name has been forgotten now, in favor of the dragons. Dany's vision seems to be saying that innocent little Myronese girls aren't your real children, the dragons are. Clear suggestion being that Dany needs to abandon or seriously reduce her concern for innocent life in favor of using her own dragon power to do what she wants. Which leads us to the long sequence where Dany has her final realizations, concluding her arc in the book. The stream will take me to the river, and the river will take me home. Except it wouldn't. Not truly. Meereen was not her home, and never would be. It was a city of strange men with strange gods and stranger hair, of slavers wrapped in fringed tokars, where grace was earned through whoring, butchery was art, and dog was a delicacy. Meereen would always be the harpy city, and Daenerys could not be a harpy. Never, said the grass, in the gruff tones of Jorah Mormont. You were warned, your grace. Let the city be, I said. Your war is in Westeros, I told you. Here again, what finally pushes Dany to the breaking point is her distaste for Myronese culture, not injustice per se, Simply leaving and going to Westeros, an option she had earlier rejected as immoral and awful, is now presented as the answer to her problems. I am alone and lost. Lost because you lingered in a place that you were never meant to be, murmured Ser Jorah. I gave you good counsel. Save your spears and swords for the Seven Kingdoms, I told you. Lead Meereen to the Meereenese and go west, I said. You would not listen. Okay.
Uh,
What?
in Marine, and ever since Astapor, she's always had people around her talking, telling her what to do, even in visions like Quaithe. I mean, she's got so many voices on coming at her, telling her what the queen should do or how to be a queen, all that kind of stuff. When she gets to the grasslands, all of that is quieted down. So now she can actually have a conversation with Drogon. Before, she could not hear Drogon because it was drowned out because of all the other, you should do this, you should do that, blah, 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 sounds of the city. And now it's actually her and her dragon. And granted, her dragon's not walking beside her like Dragonheart, whatever the movie was with the Disquaid or whatever. But the dragon's not walking beside her, but we're saying that she is getting this from the dragon, so she's actually able to have an honest conversation with the dragon. Right?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense to me. I had to take Meereen or see my children starve along the march. Dany could still see the trail of corpses she had left behind her crossing the red waste. It was not a sight she wished to see again. I had to take Meereen to feed my people. You took Meereen, he told her, yet still you lingered. To be a queen. You are a queen, her bear said, in Westeros. It is such a long way, she complained. I was tired, Jorah. I was weary of war. I wanted to rest, to laugh, to plant trees and see them grow. I am only a young girl. Note Dany's account of why she had stayed in Meereen. As mentioned in part 3, she was motivated to stay by both the fate of Astapor and her fear of her own dragon nature and potential madness. Neither is mentioned here. Instead, she now seems to view her decision to stay in Meereen as the whims of a young girl rather than a responsible moral crusade. No, you are the blood of the dragon. The whispering was growing fainter as if Ser Jorah were falling farther behind. Dragons plant no trees. Remember that. Remember who you are, what you were made to be. Remember your words. Fire and blood, Daenerys told the swaying grass. And there it is. Rejection of Meereen, rejection of peace, rejection of bending over backward to protect innocent life, rejection of planting trees, and instead an embrace of vague, violent rhetoric about who she is made to be in her words, fire and blood. Except that those words actually aren't as vague as he thinks they are, because I don't think he's read Fever Dream and doesn't realize that it's about a character who originally is set on peace and hates abolitionists because they want war, and who by the end of the book realizes that the abolitionists are right, and if that means that they need fire and blood, which means, tearing down the country basically,
Right.
then that's the right thing to do because slavery is so awful, right? So anyway. Since the first book, Dany has been tormented by the innocent lives lost when she unleashes violence and war. Now, she has apparently resolved to stop letting all this bother her. Her new fire and blood approach just seems likely to lead to many more Astapors and thousands more Hosseas. But in this chapter, Dany seems prepared to write them off as sad but necessary collateral damage of her embracing her true dragon self and who she was made to be. The dragons and Dany's own violent impulses will no longer be chained. She's given in to her greatest fear, herself. This is not to say Dany will become some cackling, one-dimensional evil villain. She will surely continue to care about those she loves, use violence against some people who legitimately deserve it, and free some more slaves if she happens to come across them. And as we've mentioned, it's heavily implied that it's foreshadowed, but that Tyrion wants to teach the Dothraki how to take Volantis, right? I mean, we just read that part. And
Right.
Anyway, but now she wants to go to Westeros. And that's particularly interesting because so far in the series, Dany's violent methods and ignoble tactics have often been palatable to the reader because they were used against brutal and murderous slavers for seemingly noble ends. But there are no slaves to free in Westeros. It seems that Martin started off by giving Dany a seeming moral justification for her violence, that he always later planned to undercut. And this was written before like season 8. This is his take that Dany's going to be basically. Well, we'll get there. Now, Dany's in it for herself, for her own power, for her own throne, and for becoming who she's made to be, and woe to anyone who gets in her way. This is the tragedy of Dany. She achieved peace, and then she decided war felt better to her. Conclusion. Overall, the purpose of the Marine arc was to transform Dany into a much darker character. With that in mind, so many of the most criticized aspects of this plotline make a great deal more sense. Our characters are supposed to be confused and frustrated about Marini's politics. They're supposed to hate the city and conclude that staying there is a waste of time. They're supposed to feel this generic distrust for everyone and to fail to grasp that their pieces were actually quite successful. Dany is supposed to conclude wrongly that her behavior through most of the book was silly and foolish. And if you came away with those impressions too, it's perfectly understandable. When you look past the unreliable narrator and POV character bias, Martin's aim becomes clear. The whole plotline is designed to maneuver Dany into a mental place where she'll decide to sideline her concerns for innocent life and take what she wants with fire and blood. Martin's triumph is in handling this character development in such a natural and organic way. He gives Dany as much agency as he can. Her hand is never truly forced by the Harpy or slavers. He presents her with incredibly difficult situations, places her core values into conflict, and makes her choose. Her choices first go one way, then another. Now, the transformation is complete. The Dany we knew at the end of A Storm of Swords is gone. The one who reaches Westeros will be a very different person. The dragons are now unchained, and the gloves are off. Fiora gave a tiny nod, chin trembling. They were dancing in my dream. And everywhere the dragons danced, the people died. That's from The Winds of Winter. We haven't covered that particular chapter yet. Next, Daario and Dany's symbolic struggle. And this is going to get us to the point that Daario, this is largely about how Daario represents the choice of war, right?
Right. Now, on Dany, on remembering who she is and embracing the dragons and fire and blood, the fire and blood Targaryen dragon rider way to take Marine would be to kill all the masters, right? If you leave only the slaves left and all the masters are dead,
I think that's the concept, yeah.
Then there's no Sons of the Harvest. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's
I think that's the concept.
Okay. So, do we think she's there right now at the end of where we're at? That would have been the right path that she needed to take, without all the voices, the G.R. Mormonts and the Sir Barristan and Daario and the Shave Fate. The Green Grace. All these people telling her what to do. Her when we leave her in the Dothraki Sea, is she at the point now where if she stayed in the Marines, she'd kill all the masters, or is she's dead set? I'm leaving. I'm going. It's time to go to Westeros type thing.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Question. And does she need to really attack Marine, or does she need to attack everywhere else where they're allowing slavery at this point, right?
Right. Now, if she does that, she's not making it to Westeros.
Oh, I think she's going to attack Volantis on her way to Westeros.
Okay. I can see that. Okay.
Dany, Rhaegar. I knew you only say Rhaegar without say Rhaegar. Okay, I'm not quite getting that, but okay. In parts 1 through 4 of this essay, I've laid out my main argument that Martin has designed Dany's A Dance with Dragons plotline quite deliberately to focus on her struggle within herself. She tries to be concerned for innocent life and fears unleashing her violent impulses. Eventually, she sacrifices a great deal for peace and achieves it, but she turns out to hate it, and in the end rejects it in favor of fire and blood. However, there's another layer to this plotline that I've just barely touched on. In this concluding part, I'll describe how Martin illustrates Dany's struggle within herself symbolically through her choice between Daario and Hisdar. Now, in a straightforward sense, Dany's peace initiative hinges on her marriage to Hisdar, so of course he represents peace that way. But Martin has gone further. He's tailored the personal traits of Hisdar and Daario so that they personify the path of peace through political compromise and the path of war. Dario, the path of war. Many fans roll their eyes at Dario or sigh in exasperation. They find him a poorly written character and are incredibly annoyed that Martin spends so much time in Danny's attraction for him, which they see as an insipid distraction. One common interpretation is that Martin is simply reminding readers that Danny is just a young teenage girl, because of course those young girls have silly crushes on obviously unsuitable men for silly reasons, right? Dario's is certainly over the top, but Danny's attraction to him is far from silly thematically. It's central to her Dance with Dragons arc. Dario personifies the path of war, violence and taking what one wants through force, exactly those darker impulses of Danny herself that she fears so much and is struggling to subdue. Since the moment he threw the heads of his two Stormcrow co-captains at Danny's feet while pledging his undying service and love, Dario has represented both ruthless violence and neuroticism to Danny. But when one looks at his character traits as displayed in Dance with Dragons, they quite closely match the description of war that I laid out in Part 4. Dario is charismatic and seductive. Where should I escape to? Into my bed, into my arms, into my heart. The hilts of Dario's auric and stiletto were wrought in the shape of golden women, naked in one. He brushed his thumbs across them in a way that was remarkably obscene and smiled a wicked smile. Dario disdains the peacemaking effort and wants Danny to solve all her problems through simple violence. Attack, he said at once. A man surrounded by foes cannot defend himself. Try, and the axe will take you in the back whilst you are parrying the sword. No, when faced with many enemies, choose the weakest, kill him, ride over him, and escape. Kill them all and take their treasures, I say. Whisper the command, and your Dario will make you a pile of their heads taller than this pyramid. If I knew who they were, Zoc and Paul and Merrick, them and all the rest, the great masters, who else would it be? He is as bold as he is bloody. We have no proof this is their work. Would you have me slaughter my own subjects? Your own subjects would gladly slaughter you. Dario is incompatible with peaceful and responsible rule. Sending him to the landmen had been wise. She was a queen, and Dario de Hearts was not the stuff of kings. He had been so long away, Danny had almost forgotten what he was. Sellswords were treacherous by nature, she reminded herself. Fickle, faithless, brutal. He will never be more than he is. He will never be the stuff of kings. Our characters are often wrong. Anyway, Dario has no conscience and is completely immoral. Then winkle them out of their pyramids on some pretext. A wedding might serve. Why not? Promise your hand to his dar, and all the great masters will come to see you married. When they gather in the Temple of the Graces, turn us loose upon them. Danny was appalled. He's a monster. A gallant monster, but a monster still. Do you take me for the Butcher King? He was never vexed by nightmares either. When Danny told him how Serwyn of the Mere Shield was haunted by the ghosts of all the knights he'd killed, Dario only laughed. If the ones I killed come bother me, I'll kill them all again. Man, that's Arya right there. Anyway.
Yeah.
He has a sellsword's conscience, she realized then. That is to say, none at all. And that very much reminds me of Arya, right? She's kind of thinking, and she's scared, and it feels like it's like Bran comes to her, and there's some Brantham leaping going on there. But in fact, it's strongly implied that it's Bran that's talking to her, and she suddenly has like this courage in her. And then she says, "Well, if you know, she is having problems with her conscience and so forth." And then she's like, "Well, if the stable boy comes for me, I'll just kill him again."
Yeah.
All of the above traits frighten Danny, and part of her fears that Dario will master her. War turns knights into monsters. Yep.
Yep.
You would make a monster of me, she whispered. A butcher queen. But then she thought of Drogon far away and the dragons in the pit. There is blood on my hands too, and on my heart. You're not so different, Dario and I. You're both monsters. Henceforth, she must keep him out of her bed, out of her heart, and out of her. If he did not betray her, he would master her. She did not know which of those she feared the most. But another part of Danny is undeniably quite attracted to and tempted by Dario, despite, or perhaps because of, all those above traits. He made her want to be his wanton. I should never see him alone. He's too dangerous to have near me. Your worship must marry his daughter in the Temple of the Graces with all the nobility of Marine on hand to bear witness to your union. Get the heads of all the noble houses out of their pyramids on some pretext, Dario had said. The dragon's words are fire and blood. Danny pushed the thought aside. He was not worthy of her. His daughter, and how peace fails to satisfy Danny. In contrast to Dario, Martin tailors the traits of Histar Zolorak to represent the path of peace through political compromise. Danny's feelings toward him are exactly how she ends up feeling toward the piece. Like the piece, Histar is unsatisfying, frustrating, not what Danny truly wants, and cannot make her happy. And instinctively, she wants war more. On her terrace, in her bathing pool, the little fish would nibble at her legs as she soaked. Even they kissed with more fervor than Histar Zolorak. I do not love you. Histar shrugged. That may come, in time. It's been known to happen that way. Not with us, she thought. Not whilst Dario is so close. It's him I want, not you. Danny pledges to marry Histar if he can give her 90 days of peace, and he holds up his end of the deal. By Danny's 6th chapter, as I mentioned in part 3, she's already feeling immensely frustrated by the compromises she is making. She's particularly angry about Brown Ben Plum's betrayal and her subsequent wrenching decision to let the Astapori starve outside her gates. Upset because of these painful compromises she's making for the Marinese people, she chooses to begin an affair with Dario, flirting with the easier, simpler path of war. Your clothes are stained with blood, she told Dario. Take them off. Only if you do the same, he kissed her. His hair smelled of blood and smoke and horse, and his mouth was hard and hot on hers. Danny trembled in his arms. Promise me that you will never turn against me. I could not bear that. Promise me. Promise me, Ned. Anyway. Never, my love. She believed him. I swore that I should wed Histar Zolorak if he gave me 90 days of peace, but now I wanted you from the first time that I saw you, but you were sellsword, fickle, treacherous. As their affair begins, it quickly becomes apparent that Dario can sexually satisfy Danny, contrasted with Histar, who can't. Danny's sexual satisfaction is a metaphor. The reality of peace can't truly satisfy Danny, only war can. Your Grace, are you unwell? If the black of night, in the black of night, this one heard you scream. Danny took a fig. It was black and plump, still moist with dew. Will Histar ever make me scream? She took a bite, but the fruit had lost its savor now that Dario was gone. Histar will bring me peace. He must. Beneath her coverlets, she tossed and turned, dreaming that Histar was kissing her, but his lips were blue and bruised, and when he thrust himself inside her, his manhood was cold as ice. Interesting, that seems to be some sort of Euron as Histar thing, which is weird because they're kind of opposites, symbolically. Euron is more war than...
Well, I mean, Euron's more Dario than Histar.
Yeah, that's my point. That's why it's a little weird that he turns into blue lips, given that she's had this vision of a blue-lipped pirate coming for her and so forth, right? Anyway.
Oh, I'm wondering. We have a faceless man that kills, or man without a face, kill Baelor. I wonder if
Balon.
I wonder if Euron will change his face to look like Hisdar, and way to her bed, and that's actually her foreshadowing.
Okay.
A vision of the future.
Yeah, and Euron is definitely more sexy and a turn on. Yeah, that's what we're saying. He's a lot more like Dario. He represents war and sexual attraction in ways that Hisdar does not. Right. That's what's throwing me and causing me to wonder about this. So I kind of like that as a possibility. Okay, it does seem kind of out of place with both the symbolism and theme and with it's weird to be tying Hisdar to Euron like that. So that's strange.
Right. Well, and you got the Euron being tied to the others in the Long Night.
So yeah, I thought about that. Is this actually tying Hisdar to death or to corpses or something along those lines, rather than or warlocks, and not actually to Euron? I was thinking about that as well. Can we interpret it somehow like that? But anyway, it's a little it feels so off. It seems like it's worth commenting on, and that it might represent something else, like you said, like potentially Euron glamoring or something.
Yeah. Now, if Hisdar starts acting more like Dario, which would be Euron, then she might feel both ways towards Hisdar.
That's been a theory, Kirsty. That's been a theory before. There's certainly people have commented on this concept of um, the other one that gets thrown in there is Benjamin, right? But those three get thrown around as potentially related or the same or something.
That's been my
You're on
theory since
Dario,
5 years ago.
Benjamin.
The Dario is Benjamin.
You're not the only one who's thrown out that theory, though.
Is Dario Naharis is everything Benjamin wanted. Brightly colored, not in black, women all over the place. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
even the description of their face, slightly similar when it comes to their nose. But I mean, most of my stuff
Yeah.
doesn't. So
Yeah. Anyway, as you, yeah, a lot of people have the same thoughts. So I mean, it seems to be a very common idea out there.
Mhm.
Are they even in the same scenes or never? And the answer is never.
Mhm.
Are they in the same scenes or never? Um, well, now there is the argument that Euron is Urathon Nightwalker, but even still, they're not. He's not. He's already. He's not there, right? That we never know. You still never see him there. So anyway, as she heads to her marriage, she fantasizes about Dario appearing to carry her away from it. Again, taking what he wants by force. If he loved you, he would come and carry you off at sword point, as Rhaegar carried off his northern girl. The girl in her insisted. So maybe they're both Euron. Right, that's what I'm saying. There's a theory that all three of those are the same character. That's been around for a long time. There's a lot of people have suggested that. Amusingly, it is actually Drogon who later appears to quite literally carry Dany away from her marriage, Marine, and peace. For now, Dany does her duty, marrying Histar and sending Dario away as a hostage. If you still think I'm overinterpreting things, look at the bolded passages below, where the symbolism of Dario representing the path of war and Dany's fear of her own darker impulses is made more explicit. Ah, okay. Dario had only grown wilder since her wedding. Her peace did not please him. Her marriage pleased him less. He'll be safer as a hostage. My captain was not made for peace. Dany could not risk his cutting down Brown Ben Plum, making mock of Histar before the court, provoking the Yunkai, or otherwise upsetting the agreement that she had given up so much to win. Dario was war and woe. Henceforth, she must keep him out of her bed, out of her heart, and out of her. If he did not betray her, he would master her. She did not know which of those she feared the most. But it turns out to be Dany herself who's not made for peace. Does it matter that Histar's kisses do not please me? Peace will please me. Am I a queen or just a woman? Dany slid her arms around him and let him have his way. Drunk as he was, she knew he would not be inside her long, nor was he. Afterward, he nuzzled at her ear and whispered, God's grant that we have made a son tonight. This one heard you crying. Crying? I was not crying. Why would I cry? I have my peace. I have my king. I have everything a queen might wish for. I had a bad dream, that was all. Dany has also been telling herself that she has to play the role of a queen, that Daria is not the stuff of kings, that a true queen would put her people first, that she would become the responsible ruler. Now she has seemingly come to a realization about herself. She wondered what Daria was doing. Was he restless as well? Was he thinking about her? Did he love her truly? Did he hate her for marrying Histar? I should never have taken him in my bed. He was only a sellsword, no fit consort for a queen. And yet, I knew that all along, but I did it anyway. The Dothraki Sea, again. As outlined in Part 4, in her final chapter, Dany chooses fire and blood over Marine, peace, and Hosea. The symbolic conflict between Histar, peace, and Dario, war, is also resolved. First, Dany still tries to go back to Marine and her husband for the good of her people. It was time, though. A girl might spend her life at play, but she was a woman grown, a queen, a wife, a mother to thousands. Her children had need of her. Drogon had bent before the whip, and so must she. She had to don her crown again, and return to her ebon bench in the arms of her noble husband, Hisdar of the tepid kisses. But Dany then has her dragons plant no trees and fire and blood visions as outlined in Part 4. Afterward, the chapter's metaphorical final scene involves literal fire and blood. The carcass was too heavy for him to bear back to his lair, so Drogon consumed his kill there, tearing at the charred flesh as the grasses burned around them, the air thick with drifting smoke and the smell of burnt horsehair. Dany, starved, slid off his back and ate with him, ripping chunks of smoky meat from the dead horse with bare, burned hands. And notice that she has burned hands because she's not immune to fire. But anyway, And amidst the bloody, burning carcass, for her final thoughts in the book, Dany returns to the contrast between Daario and Hizdahr. Though Daario is not the stuff of kings, here is her ultimate rejection of the role of a queen in silk and her choice of Daario. In Meereen, I was a queen in silk, nibbling on stuffed dates and honeyed lamb, she remembered. What would my noble husband think if he could see me now? Hizdahr would be horrified, no doubt, but Daario would laugh, carve up off a hunk of horse meat with his Eric, and squat down to eat beside her. As the western sky turned the color of a blood bruise, she heard the sound of approaching horses. Dany rose, wiped her hands on her ragged undertunic, and went to stand beside her dragon. That was how Cal Jocko found her, when half a hundred mounted warriors emerged from the drifting smoke. Dany now has decided who and what she is. Her internal struggle has been resolved. He does have other series, but I think at this point we had a long list of things we were interested in discussing. Cantus, maybe some of Cantus's stuff.
I can't remember.
So there's the night lamp theory and quite a few other things with Cantus. Cantus thinks that I think he thinks that Mance Rayder might be glamored as Ramsay or something, and have written the Pink Letter. Does Dany at some point think that she's questions if a wolf, or questions if a wolf? So okay, so there's lots of this. See Triple Turns episode 4, but so in the first book, she has a vision of a great wolf. She has her dream where she has to decide whether to become a fiery dragon or, quote, icy death howling forever alone in the darkness. And there's one animal that's known as the lone animal, and it's also the one animal that's most associated with howling in this series. So it's literally implied that those are her two choices. Should she be? She shares a single mind with her horse. She's often choosing to wear white. She specifically chooses to wear white. Right as there's this whole comparison between this concept of choosing to marry for duty, like Rhaegar did, or for choosing the wolf girl, and then Daario shows up, and then she dresses in white, in a gray dress with white pearls and her white lion skin. She's that's not the only time she chooses white. One of my favorite ones is the one that has like all sorts of different references to all the different things that are going on in the same paragraph.
Yeah.
So
she's definitely written and has shown both aspects of her bloodline, Targaryen and Stark, for sure.
She's shown a vision of the Red Wedding. She's the one with all the blue symbolism and the. It does say wolf, not in that particular part. No, that says how icy death howling forever alone in the darkness is her second half according to that chapter. So that chapter, he's careful not to make it explicitly dragon versus wolf. He makes it fiery. He makes it fiery dragon versus icy death howling forever alone in the darkness as their alternative choice. But he's deliberately associating it with howling, with alone, where the one animal that's most known as alone is the wolf. Right? It'd be too obvious. It'd be too obvious if you were sure. There's other things that howl, but in this story, she's the one with the blue rose. Jon is literally in the Frostbangs, having left the Night's Watch when she sees the blue rose at the wall. He's nowhere near the wall, and it's a vision for Dany. It's not for the reader, right? Jon is definitely not associated with the wall at that point, and it's quite likely he won't be associated with the wall by the time she gets to Westeros. So she's only associated with the wall in the readers' minds, and the readers are trying to find clues towards Jon's parentage when they see that. Maybe she's a nine-tailed white fox. Remember, her Targaryen is technically 1/4 Dane and 1/2 Blackwood. I'm not sure how that gets her to icy death howling forever alone in the darkness.
Hey, and not to mention, we were just speaking about you earlier.
Yeah.
Did your ears burn? Richard,
yeah, we mentioned you multiple times. We definitely mentioned you multiple times because we were going through the last 1.5 parts of the Myrni's Blot, and he's talking about her final transformation and the visions that she's having. Must have.
Yeah, he
And
was
we said,
talking about how
let's keep in mind Guy's idea as we start to read these visions. Let's keep in mind Guy's idea that these are actually coming from Drogon.
Yep, and
So
we are in agreement.
yeah, we definitely like that interpretation. Yeah, with George, there's always multiple correct interpretations and so forth, but. And Lyanna's blue rose crown ties to Florent the Fox. Okay, fair enough. That still ties her to Lyanna, but okay. There's also the Darth Vader moment, right? So she has a vision of basically Rhaegar dressed as Darth Vader, and then he opens up his visor and she sees her own face, just like Luke sees his own face in Darth Vader's visor right before it's revealed that his father, is secretly Darth Vader. Spoilers for The Empire Strikes Back, I guess.
They ain't seen it now. It's their own fault.
Yeah, and the correct order to view those movies is definitely 4 and 5 should be first, and then 1 is kind of optional, and then 2, 3, 6, with all sorts of optional things you can throw in there, but including Rogue One and Solo and so forth. I read the movies a lot for those last several Danny bids. Okay, for sure. I don't really remember their conclusions, but there is a lot of good analysis there. Absolutely.
Yeah, without
My favorite moment, I still can't get over that one. Yeah. And every single time that Danny's parents' names are used, they're used in a way where if you said Danny's father or her mother or something like that instead of the name, it would tie. It by using the formal name, it distances her relationship from them. They're specifically only used to kind of distance her from the idea that she is Rhaella and Ares's. They're literally used when it would distance their relationship from her. So it's almost impossible to only read Danny's chapters and come away not thinking that Rhaegar is her father and that Ares is not. And George does that deliberately.
And we're still on. You're still on the Rhaella is Septa Lemore.
I like that, and I thought there was a lot more to it in the key chapter of it than I remembered, to be honest. So this was really my first read through after having come to that hypothesis.
Aegon
It's that
grandson.
Yeah, it really reads like there's little clues that support that idea. Mostly, it's because I've always been trying to figure out, how can you make her be over 50 and somebody the readers will care about as a big reveal and a mother. I'm sorry?
I thought it was 40.
Maybe it's 40, but it's okay, north of 40. You're right, but that's the point. But that's the point is that it doesn't quite work for Ashara, right? She's supposed to be like early to mid 30s, like Ned. She's not supposed to be in the books. Not obviously. People have trouble conflating the book and the show and so forth. And so in their heads, they don't, they see Sean Bean as Ned potentially and can't, and don't realize Ashara should be like maybe mid 30s ish.
Yeah, Ned is what, 35 in the book.
And people have asked, yeah, he's like mid 30s as well. So people have asked that of George, and he said, yeah, that she's in her 30s, and Tyrion says that she's clearly over 40. Except for Mora is. And part of the point is that Tyrion is actually nailing the problem with Aegon's age, right? He's got Aegon as being the same age as Daenerys. He doesn't technically say that she's the same age as Daenerys, but he uses that whole 15, 16 near enough twice. Once to say somebody the same age as Daenerys and wants to say Aegon.
Right.
Lenore is a mother figure for sure, but I can't see a better option than Ashara. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Rhaella is the one that would actually be the right age and that would really blow the readers' minds. Tyrion is younger and used to young woman. Don't trust his judgment. I think George was asked that, and I think he said mid 30s, something like that. Yeah, he said, I think he may have just said 30s. He may have just said inner 30s, but he's deliberately throwing this idea that she's a mother figure who's older than that. He's deliberately, yeah. I get that it could be, you can always go with narrator error or whatever, but I think it's interesting that he's nailing the right age for young Griff, right, and pointing out the problems with it, while someone's going to be a nine-tailed fox, and nine-tailed foxes are associated with either silver, white, or gold fur and fire, like Valerian's three hair colors. Achieving all nine tails makes them 1,000 years old. Ooh.
Ooh.
TTYL. Got a meeting. All right. Talk to
Thanks
you
for
later.
stopping by. Like I said, your ears are burning because we mentioned you. Or
Yep. Good to have you here.
Everybody here, the Green Bard is a really good channel. Very smart. Plays a hell of a guitar.
Oh, and my favorite is the songs. It'll do songs, and some of them he'll change to Westerosi lyrics. Some of them are references that are kind of references in the later bards stress. Some of them are references that are songs that George is referring to in the series as well, right? So
hey, when he asked me, the Green Bard asked me to get up there at Ice and Fire Con with the ice sword and everything, and in my Stark armor, I had no idea what we were doing. So I found out that they were singing a song, and it had different aspects of people that were in the books. So I forget the lady's name that was standing beside me. I feel so bad. It's been a couple of years. But
was
I'm
it
sitting there
Sir
dancing with her. Yeah,
was it
yeah,
Sir
that's
Julie?
it. Yeah.
Sir Julie of Tarth?
Yeah, I had no idea what we were doing. Felt like a complete idiot standing up there. And then once she started dancing, and I figured it out. I mean, it was. I mean, not dancing, but just moving. But it ended up being kind of fun. I forget the words that it was a parody of a song, but it was using Ice and Fire, or the song Ice and Fire.
I may have missed that. Was that the second half? Because I think I was there. He basically did his set twice, and I was there for the first.
This wasn't out in the meeting area or anything like that. This was
that's what I'm talking about.
It was actually in one of the rooms.
I was basically either half or all of their audience for the first time through the set, and then they did a second set, and I stayed for a little bit, but I'd stick around for the entire second set because it was the same things. He goes, well, since Richard's really the only one that he even said, well, since Richard's the only one that's actually heard it all, we're going to start over, just do it all again. In Chinese mythology, fox trees are called empress trees, and when the girls are born, one is planted, then when they reach womanhood, chopped down to make a chest. Stumps are left like that grove of stumps.
Huh.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Now is that in the Riverlands? Is that where the Ghost of High Heart is?
Yeah.
Okay. And where you can't get fire visions.
And supposedly it's still in the Riverlands where Jamie sleeps on a stump, and it's implied that it is a Weirwood stump. Yeah. And in this world, the Weirwood it doesn't rot.
Right.
So the furniture's last, or a chest.
Yeah, and if they're actually more like a fungus than a tree, they might not care hardly at all that the leaves are cut down and so forth. And I've even seen like logs that were cut into like chairs, and they get wet and they start to grow leaves out of them and stuff. Have you ever seen that?
No. Oh yeah. I think I've seen some pictures of that.
Yeah. But the point being that plants are plants ever really dead when you think they're dead? The fact that they can have new growth, just as this old log that's been cut into a bench, and you sit on it and it gets wet and it starts sprouting leaves and things, and it's like, and you would have sworn it was dead. Well, what is dead to a plant, I guess.
Yeah. There.
And the woman foxes are associated with taking on enchanting woman forms. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, we're about at an hour if we want to wrap up.
Yeah.
And hooking up
I
with
can't
the king or emperor, bringing down the empire, etc., and dark magic. Okay.
I like
Yeah,
it
I
a
can
lot.
see that. Yeah, yeah. Um, there's this story that's told about the Blackfire rebellion that the problem was that Daemon was in love with Daenerys of the Water Garden fame in Dorne.
Mm.
Of course, this doesn't really make much sense because he's married and has lots of kids, and it was like 11 years prior, and they both married and have lots of kids, and there's no indication that there was any communication going on between them or any of that. It's like it's like the singers like to romanticize and claim that these things are about one man and one woman, and when really there's more going on there. So just like with Robert's Rebellion and so forth, right?
But with Georgian unreliable narrator and the stuff that's not written on the
Well,
page, his
and enough
greatest
said,
weapon
we know
is
what's
stuff
really
that
going on with the
don't tell.
Blackfires. It's just George is once again telling us the Richard III story. And he tells us which historians he likes. He tells us which historical fiction he likes. He tells us which Shakespeare he likes, and it's all Richard III, Richard III, Richard III. Anyway, let's wrap.
Okay. All right. Friday is Tyrion 7. All right. Thank y'all for joining us.
And,
This is
and,
really
and that's
fun.
going to be a no nonsense one. We're going to stay fairly focused. Our comments will be reasonably brief. We're going to want to make them. We're going to want to try and give our abbreviated versions of things that we've said before when we see things and so forth, and just keep it tight because it's a
That
long
one
one.
I
Anyway,
am going to try to pre-read and pre-mark where I got my comments
good,
just to make sure.
good. Let's do that. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely good idea.
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
normally don't. I like to go on the fly, whatever pops in my
Yeah,
head.
let's keep it a little tighter, but so we can
But
get all
I
through it
think
here. Sun showers are
again.
known as fox weddings. There's sun showers on the wall. Nice.
Okay. All right. Again,
There's
we're
definitely,
world
there's
famous.
definitely lots of fox symbols, and we talked about that quite a bit with both of the Shadrick analyses, right? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Go
But
ahead.
I mean, House Florent didn't. No, we'll get to it. We'll get to it next time. All right. Appreciate everybody joining us. Special guest Agui Green Bar dropping in. We're still world famous. Brazil to Australia. We appreciate all you, and we'll see you here Friday for Tyrion 7. Y'all take care and bye.
Have a good one. Brains and Peter as well. Okay.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.